Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 6th of October 2025. It's Gary here again. I don't really know that I was fully prepared to be talking about this particular topic today, which is really the only topic that's going on in Rangers land right now after yesterday's 1-1 draw at Falkirk. But yes, of course, Russell Martin is now officially our shortest tenured and, by the way, worst performing manager ever in our 153-year history, lasting 123 days. And he was relieved of his duties as the Rangers first team head coach yesterday after the game. And it's kind of interesting because we were talking about it at the club, saying, and this is before the end of the game, saying, "What do you think? Do you think they'll let him go over the international break?" And I think at that point, that other mob from the East End that were not winning their game, and maybe they had just drawn, maybe they had just levelled up with us. I can't actually remember, but at the time I was like, "Oof." I don't know, the way that they have basically said nothing and bedded in, they being Rangers leadership, of course, it gave me pause to think. I think these guys might be just persevering with this guy and seeing how it's going to go over the next wee while with the season. Pretty much, looking like it's going to be a bit of a write-off, certainly in the league for right now. So, yeah, it's one of these things. We're now looking for, our fifth permanent manager in roughly about 3 years, maybe even less than 3 years, and the statement was very short and sweet. I was actually quite pleased with the club. I was very pleased actually with the club last night. I thought they were going to, the rumours were going around that they were calling a board meeting. Then the rumours got more and more, more and more prevalent in terms of, it's actually going to happen. They're going to let him go. There's an announcement tomorrow. And at the time, I was like, what's the point of making an announcement tomorrow? You put a 2-line note out there saying he's been relieved of his duties and will be in touch when we know more. Thanks for your efforts, all that sort of thing. And it didn't look like that was going to happen. And then it did happen. So fair play. Credit where it's due in terms of the club doing what they wanted. I joked with a pal yesterday saying it's not as if they never had that website article or those social media posts ready for the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. The way that it was going, it was just awful, wasn't it? And it just basically said, while all transition periods require some time, results have not met the club's expectations. And I think it's one of these things for me. He was the guy that said it. Wasn't anybody else that forced him to say it. He was the guy that said, we know we have to win as we build. His words, not anyone else's. And he wasn't prompted or forced or coerced into saying that. And he didn't. I mean, what was that? Five wins in 17 games or something like that, or whatever the number was. He's got like a 20-something percentage win rate there, which is like almost half of the worst that we've ever had. And that includes, the Murtys and the Kenny McDowells and McCoys and stuff like that. So it's been terrible, and we've got another record there that he's helped contribute to, which was, 23 or maybe even 24 games away from home now, stretching back to 1897, where we have conceded a goal. And that is away from home, and that is just absolutely shocking. And it wasn't getting any better, really, was it? I was hopeful last week that we were actually seeing progress. I felt that we were seeing a wee bit of progress. And at the time, I'm thinking, right, here we go. We go over to Sturm Graz in Austria, and we have another horrendous start. And then we are so creative in the goals that we lose. I'll be very, very quick with the game segment today. I don't think there's much point in really pouring over that. Now it kind of pales into insignificance, doesn't it? Or it's a wee bit irrelevant now. And it's just, then you get that Falkirk performance. And I have to say, like, this fix that we need, that we want in terms of stability, it's just not going to be overnight. It's just not going to be overnight. And I know that the leadership, and I know that the management team, whomever the new management team are going to be, they can't really say that. They'll say their version of that, but they're not going to say it's going to take us 3 or 4 or 5 windows, because they truly don't know. You could just absolutely have a monumental slice of luck and everything just completely gels together and the team are firing on all cylinders. But I don't think it's going to be an overnight fix, and we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that it's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 years or whatever that looks like. And I really wish it would be. I really wish it would be an overnight fix, but we've got a brand new, I think I mentioned this last week or maybe the week before, we've got a brand, I mean, basically the whole fabric of the leadership of our club has been replaced over the last 12 months or so, and actually less than that. And it's just not going to shape up to be the fact that it's going to be a quick fix, and it's going to be, one step forward, three steps back, baby steps here and there, micro improvements. And the thing with Russell Martin that we never got, which we did receive when we had Clement and Van Bronckhorst, over the last wee while, and even with Barry Ferguson to a point, was we never get that bounce, that, some results that came out the blue, some performances that you kind of shake your head at to say, like, this is the exact same players. Why couldn't they have done that before? But they just couldn't, and they just didn't. And you know what? As I'd said to a few people yesterday, I think everyone comes out of this with some semblance of, what would you say? I was going to say credibility, and that's not the right word, of course, because this has been a monumental disaster from the very beginning. But the club, from a leadership perspective, one of the things that I thought was going to be a wee bit precarious in the early part of the season was if they sacked him after, say half a dozen games, 10 games, or whatever it was looking like, then how would that be in terms of perception from the outside for prospective new managers? Would they be looking and saying, well, wait a minute, man, if I don't get off to an absolute flyer, you're telling me that my job's going to be in jeopardy, I'm going to move my family and my life over there, and then I'm going to have to move again. So there was a wee bit of, politicking maybe, or just kind of playing the game a wee bit is probably the best way to say it. So, I mean, you can't say that the board didn't back him. The board backed him in the transfer market. The board backed him by showing him extreme patience after a very, very, very rough start. And it just didn't work out. Now, so then you have to really turn that back around to the board and say, right, this is no good. This is, you guys now are 0 for 1 in terms of hiring. This was not a hugely popular appointment in the beginning, just in terms of the energy and in terms, not that anybody had a real hate on for Russell Martin, but he was coming off of a very poor performance and a whole lot of stubbornness, quite frankly, with Southampton. And he was, it just wasn't that marquee guy that we were hoping for, that we would get behind, that had a track record that you would say, you actually genuinely do have to trust this guy because he's done it before. He just has to adjust to the nuances of our club and our country and our league. I just think that the board, I mean, when you look at the board now, this is it's brand new. As I say, it's less than a year old, right up to the chairman, and there's not a lot. I mean, if you the only person really truly there is Fraser Thornton, who as a Rangers fan, as a season ticket holder, or was a season ticket holder before he became a director of the club, but he hasn't got the tenure that he's not one of the kind of stalwarts from previous regimes or anything to be able to say, this is how the club works, this is how we need to act and react, this is how we need to behave, this is how we need to communicate. There's just not that tenure there, that we don't have that. So we're now in a situation where, I don't know, I think they have to take some counsel from some people that have been in and around the game. You've got your Alistair Johnsons, your Dave Kings, the people that have been in and around the parks and such, that and say what you like about each of these guys, but you can still learn from some of their experiences to be able to say, right, we made a complete monumental mess up of that first one. What should we be looking at and for in terms of the next management? How should we be looking to communicate? Because one of the things they said, and it's been said all over the place, is you will only hear from us if things are going wrong. This is the worst thing that can happen to a football club, is the requirement to have to fire a manager, certainly this early in the tenure, 123 days. And that's, you need the chairman to come out. You need Kavanagh to come out and say, we got it wrong, and we'll make sure that we actually genuinely learn from this, and we'll move on, because we, like, our boards, not just this one, but previous boards as well, just don't seem to have a massively brilliant track record of bringing in the right manager at the right time to do the right things for us as a support and for the fan base and at large, and it's just not good enough. And it's sad. I think it's very sad that when my love Erin asked me yesterday how I was feeling about it, the very first word I typed to her was sad. I said, no one wanted this, no one, like obviously Russell Martin didn't, his backroom team didn't, the fan base didn't, the board didn't, no one connected with the club wanted this at all. But then the ultimate feeling afterwards really is relief, because we've seen the worst of ourselves, some of the, like, I just can't handle the negativity that was going around. And I know that type of negativity is really truly what helps affect meaningful change, but it's an absolute downer that every single thing you read is negative, every single thing you look at is negative, every single atmosphere that you're involved in is negative. We had 10 people down at the club yesterday, we had 6 the week before, 2 of them were kids, and the atmosphere was just toxic the whole time. And I don't live my life like that, so it's really, really difficult for me to be able to kind of keep the stiff upper lip and just enjoy things. I love being a Rangers fan. I would never ever not go to the games or anything like that. That's just not the way that I support Rangers, and I just can't. I just can't abide the negativity, and thankfully that's it done now. We'll have a period of hopeful calm, and then a period of hopeful excitement where we actually get an opportunity to just enjoy watching Rangers again, because that's really what we want to do. We want to be debating whether this guy's better in this position, whether this guy should still be there, whether this guy is doing the things that he should be doing and stuff like that, rather than getting embroiled in protests and demonstrations and just kind of trying in some way to justify why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, ultimately this is a hobby, but it's, for Rangers fans, we know it's more than that. It's more than a hobby, but try and explain that to people who don't get it, and it's just a wee bit more difficult to do that. So we're just at a point now where we can get the negativity behind us, we can get the nonsense behind us, we can hopefully get an appointment that unifies the club. Steven Gerrard, please, and then we can see how it goes. And in terms of the new manager, who knows what that looks like? We've talked about succession planning here on this podcast for quite some time, and there should be succession planning for every single role and every single part of the club, and none more so than in the manager position. And I know that's very fluid because it really depends on availability and such, but you need someone. I don't see anyone out there. I know that he left, and I was very, very disappointed when he left, mostly because the tattoo that I had of him with the Premier League trophy was about 5/6 of the way done, and he buggered off, and I didn't even see his name for about a year, if you remember back to that. But in terms of rallying the troops, in terms of knowing and understanding us as a club, in terms of unfinished business, in terms of a genuine need to turn his managerial career around after a couple of duff appointments to both Aston Villa and over in Saudi, it's just a perfect fit for me. And then I get an opportunity to say it's actually not a 55 tattoo, it's a Steven Gerrard tattoo, right? Okay. So we'll see what that looks like. If the club could move swiftly and just get him appointed, that would be great. There's other names in the fray, of course, and we'll see what that looks like. But they need to be able to test the water. They need to go to the fan advisory group. They need to go to the bigger social media presence folks like the Heart and Hand Network and other ones out there and say confidentially, this is what we're thinking about. How do you think the fans will take that? Like, just involve us. Ask me, I'll tell you, and I would be happy to provide some opinion there, because it is entertainment, and it is about opinion, and it is about feelings, and it is about reputation, and it is about what we need right now. And what we need right now is we need something to look forward to, and we need someone to get behind, and someone to give us a wee bit of enthusiasm. And if we don't get that, then we're going to be in a very, very similar position as the season trudges on here. So we'll see. We'll see. To the board, you absolutely need to do way, way, way better next time than you did on this particular occasion, and you need to communicate better with us as a fan base and not wait to just get accosted in a hotel lobby after another dismal result away in Europe. So here's a thing that I talk about a lot in my coaching practice, and it's, I think I did a blog and a podcast about this. So if you go check my website, garygillan.com, you'll get to see it or hear it. And it's all about mistakes. And mistakes, there's no such thing as a mistake. A mistake is a label that you put on something after you know what happened. So there's not really an art of making a mistake in and of the moment. If you intentionally do something to break it, to be destructive or whatever, that's not a mistake. it's either gross incompetence or it's sabotage, and those aren't mistakes in and of themselves. So when you think about it now, was it a mistake to hire Russell Martin? Of course it was a mistake to hire Russell Martin, but we know that now based on all the evidence that we've had over the last 123 days of his tenure. So what we really need to do now is say, right, okay, what elements of that were a mistake? What parts did we believe that ended up not being true? What parts did we have concerns over in the beginning that we just decided to ignore? There's a whole bunch of facets of learnings in that if they're actually genuinely willing to sit down and dissect that and say, right, we're not going to make that same mistake again. And we're not going to insult anyone. We're not going to give Russell Martin a hard time. We're dealing with a human being here, of course. And he seems like a thoroughly nice guy, just not for us. And, move on and let's not ever think or speak about this ever again. But thinking about taking the benefits of the learnings from the mistakes is absolutely what the club need to do right now, and you need to do it kind of quick. This is a perfect time, obviously, with having a couple of weeks between now and next time. That's plenty time to go get the manager that we are looking for. Okay, game segment. First one, Thursday's 2-1 away defeat to Sturm Graz. I thought it was all right. We of course we lost an early goal from our own throw-in, no less. I think one of the things from Russell Martin's team perspective was that we found new and creative ways to lose absolutely junk goals. I mean, some of these 2 goals in particular this night was just beyond a joke, man. It absolutely was beyond a joke. We have a throw-in, Tav kind of hesitates a wee bit, throws it goes to their guy, we're sleeping, and then it hits off Jack Buckland. It looks like he was just completely surprised by the fact. I thought initially it took a deflection, it did not, but he was just kind of had that kind of glacial look on his face, didn't he? And they would probably want that one back, but we just completely switched off. We did create and give up, a bunch of chances, and Jack Buckland had another great night apart from that first goal. Not blaming him for the first goal, but just something you would expect if you'd expect him to save that, to be perfectly honest. And but he had some great saves. Chermiti, I honestly thought Chermiti was going to get his first goal. He was getting closer and closer and closer. He hit the bar. Goalie made a couple of really good saves, a couple of fluffed finishes, but Jack Buckland, if it wasn't for Jack Buckland, the game would have been well beyond us, and even in the first half. And then we get, what's the best way to say it? Completely hoodwinked for their second goal. We've got a line that's if the line was any higher, it would have been up in their goal line. It was absolutely bonkers the way that we were defending that. They just it's a brilliant ball and a brilliant finish, fair play, especially the pass. I thought the pass was incredible. But to be that high and get caught like that it's just schoolboy stuff. I know that's such a cliche, but it really genuinely was like schoolboy stuff. A couple of subs at half time, and then we got a brilliant finish for to go 2-1 down within, what was that, like 49 minutes or something like that. So then you're thinking, right, here we go. And there was chances at both sides. I thought more at our end than as in us attacking their goal than the chances they created. They created it because we were creating more space as a result of what we wanted to do to get to try and get the equaliser there. Much better second half, but still much better second half in comparison to the first half, and in comparison to the way that we were playing for the season up to that particular point. Not like a really good second half, if that makes sense, And I think that's a dip in standards from my perspective. I'm always looking for, the glass half full visibility or viewpoint there, and it was a better second half than it was a first half. The positives, we did keep going, we did keep creating. By the way, we had that commentator, that lassie commentator again, and that lassie's really, really good. She calls the game superbly well, and I'll tell you what I did. I actually reached out to her. I found out who it was. I reached out to her on LinkedIn, and I'm going to try and get her on my own podcast, not the NARSA podcast, but my own Gary Gillan coaching podcast at some point in the future. We've got a meeting here I think it's next week. We've got a meeting, or maybe the week after, to just talk about what we would talk about on the pod and such like that. But exceptionally good, so good for her. On the negatives, you know what? We're being beaten here now by teams that I got very used to beating in Europe. Genk, who beat us in the first game, they got beat at home by Ferencváros. Sturm Graz had already been beaten in their first game. These are not great sides at all. And I'm not saying that either team did not deserve to beat Rangers. They did. We had the chances against Sturm Graz, but it was I'm not complaining about the results per se. What I'm complaining about is the fact that our standards have dropped so much to the point now where who knows what's going to happen in the games coming up here. And I don't know, 2 defeats from the first 2 games. We've got 6 games to still salvage the, what would it be, 10, 12 points that we would need to make sure that we're going to qualify for the knockout stages. Not insurmountable, absolutely not. And we'll see how it goes. But it's just not good enough anymore. It's back to the bad old days. What it says is we had 59% possession, 15 shots on goal with 10 on target. That's a good return when you think about the actual shots created, and especially the ones on target. It's not a good return when you've only scored 1 of those. It's just not good enough. Versus 9 shots with 8 on target, so their accuracy was a lot better than us. In terms of the referee watch, I think he did okay. I don't recall anything that really went against us in terms of refereeing decisions or anything like that, so he'll get the standard 7 out of 10. Second game was yesterday's 1-1 draw at Falkirk, which, as it turns out, was Russell Martin's last game in charge of Rangers. And I honestly felt yesterday, and part of it was probably the negative atmosphere at the game and just the general apathy we're all feeling for the club for right now. But I actually felt that was the worst of all season. I know the first half against Hearts was an absolute stink bomb, but I think in terms of the overall game from start to finish, literally from start to finish, I thought it was really, really, really poor. Nothing clicked, nothing worked. They got a goal. We got a goal chalked offside in the 3rd or 4th minute, and other than that, there was nothing. It was a very, very, very rough first half, and then a rough 40 minutes or so, and then we've got a brilliant move where we create something from nothing. Like, you just I was surprised that we could actually put that kind of move together. An absolutely brilliant ball in from Derek Cornelius. He's got a really good ball in as well. He was playing at left back yesterday, had a wee bit of a rough start, and then kind of came in to the game, and then Majowski, put his very, very, very much against the run of play, 1-0 up, and at one point, of course, we're leading. Motherwell are leading, and you're like, this could be 5 points here. I wonder if this is the weekend where it's going to turn around. But no one, I don't think anyone, had the confidence that we were not going to keep them at bay, that we were going to keep a clean sheet. And here's a weird thing though. It wasn't one of those games where you're like, Falkirk can count themselves very, very, very unlucky. They were better than us. They worked harder than us. They had greater energy than us. They didn't have a whole bunch of chances, on us in terms of, Jack Butland making a whole bunch of saves or anything like that. They were going for it at the end, and they were pushing and actually looked more likely to score towards at the end. But there wasn't really too much in the second half other than the equaliser, which was a massive deflection, which took it past Jack Butland. On the positives, a point. One of the boys at the club yesterday was saying, I hope Falkirk score again to just make sure this is the final nail in the coffin of Russell Martin. And I could see the logic in that. Don't agree with it at all, but I can see the logic in it. And I'm glad that they didn't, because that's an extra point the new manager can build from. And, so thank you to Russell Martin for that extra point. And the best part of it was that it ended his tenure as manager, and I do really thank him and wish him well. It was a very, very bad appointment. As I'd said, I think last week or the week before, why would you want to keep a job like that when the majority, I know he was saying I'm getting such unbelievable support from everyone inside the club and all that. Yes, of course, that's nice. But the majority, that's 1% of the people that and I know they really matter, but that's 1% of the people that kind of count, and 99% are saying you're really bad at this, and singing the songs and stuff, which I didn't like either at all. But that was a positive that ended his reign and his tenure with us. And negatives, I thought everything about it was bad apart from the goal. I thought the goal was really good, and other than that, it was very, very poor. It says we had 57% possession, 7 shots with 2 on target. Versus 11 shots with 4 on target, so maybe they did create more chances, but who knows. But anyway, in terms of the referee, I don't like that referee at all. I can't even remember his name, and I didn't write it down, so forgive me for that. But it was the same old story, and I hope the new manager picks up on this when he comes in, to say there's foul after foul after foul after foul for the opposition, and then the very first foul we do, there's a yellow card, and that's a wee tiny bit of an exaggeration, but the first significant foul that goes in, we get the yellow card, and every time we're like, that's my first foul. Not saying that our fouls are not worthy of a yellow card, but so are they. If you're coming into someone with two hands on the back and you're doing it two or three or four times rapid, and the referee doesn't say or do a thing, and then you get booked for something very similar to that, that's just not good enough. And it happened with Tav, getting the first booking. So he's going to get, do you know what? I'm going to feel, since I'm in a good mood and I'm getting excited about what the new manager's going to be, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10, but it really should have been a 4. He's not a good ref. I don't like him. And he just doesn't, he's not the kind of guy that looks like he would command a game either. He's just like a dweeb, is that the word? Dweeb, whatever. Anyway, no games this week, thank the Lord that we don't have to go and watch that again this week, and we'll convalesce, and the whole thing is going to be excitement about the manager now, and of course the World Cup qualifiers as well. On to the shout-outs. So shout-outs, I have a belated happy 25th wedding anniversary shout-out to Brian and Gaynor Campbell. Brian, our former VP and now our convention director at NARSA here, and they celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary on the 30th of September. That is, I mean, as Gaynor said there, that's a couple of life sentences right there. She would have been out a couple of times if she had just done what she maybe should have done 25 years ago. But that's an incredible tenure for these guys. Such a wonderful couple, and I'm going to get the opportunity to go and see them here a wee bit later this month. I'm heading down to San Diego for a coaching conference, and I'm looking forward to getting a chance to spend a wee bit of time with them as well. And another belated get well message here for NARSA's own RTV director, Dan Bransfield, who underwent hip surgery last week there. He was actually giving us a wee bit of a running commentary of what that looked like, and I just kept forgetting to mention it, so my apologies for that, Dan. But by all accounts, the surgery went well. He sent us a photograph of the meal that they tried to serve him, and I'm going to say meal in inverted commas because man, oh man, hospital food. Oh dear, I think you'd maybe get a nicer meal if you were locked up in Berlin. It didn't look very appetising whatsoever, but by all accounts, the hip surgery went very well. He's home, he's recovering, and if you're part of the NARSA WhatsApp group, you'll see he's still actively contributing to the banter that we have over there. So I hope everything goes well, my friend, and that you are on the road to recovery. Just another shout out for Amanda and Jason Junior Ross, who are running the London Marathon in April for the Royal British Legion. I'll keep the link on the show notes for that. And the Melbourne City Loyal Ranger Supporters Club Culture Weekend on the 21st to 22nd of November. What's that now? That's like 6 weeks away, including the 9 in a row: Ian Ferguson, Gary Stevens, Stuart Monroe, boat cruise, Rangers songs, Saturday gala dinner, all sorts of fun stuff like that. In terms of NARSA business for this week, we did indeed have a convention meeting, a dedicated convention meeting last week. What day was that now? Wednesday, I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. And we had a great conversation actually around what we wanted to do, whether we actually wanted to have an event next year or not, or really put all of our efforts into a stormer happening the year after. And what we've settled on is that we are considering and researching a smaller event next year, and then still leaning into a larger one the year after. Locations, dates, format for next year, we have not decided yet. We are looking at a couple of different cities in North America. We need to be really, really sensitive for next year, with it being a World Cup year, that I think the whole continent here in North America is just going to jack up the prices, and we want to be very, very cognizant of that. And we don't want to clash with the World Cup, and we don't want to, have people kind of choosing between the two if we can help it. So we're going to see. So as I say, the dates are yet to be determined. Our standard date, as you know, is typically always in and around the first weekend in June when we can. And the cities, we're getting a wee bit creative with the cities, just to see whether we could do something a wee bit different and see where it goes from there. So I'm not intentionally being vague, folks. This is literally what we know for right now. So we are going to look at an event of some description. The format for next year is going to be a wee bit different than your standard convention format. I think it's fair to say that, where I said the words I said on the call last week was like convention light, where it's maybe not the 3-day programme, for example. There's maybe not football and golf and a grand banquet or something like that. It's maybe not a shirt and tie event, something like that, that we just get an opportunity to kind of mix it up a wee bit and have it a wee bit more casual and a wee bit more cost effective as well, something like that. So maybe between now and next week, we'll have an opportunity to actually provide you with some details. We might even go back out to a survey and say, look, we're thinking between these two cities, where would you prefer to go? And we might pick one out of the two. So we'll see what that looks like. But we're actively doing something now. We were actively doing something before, which was considering, but we're having conversations now. We're doing research. We're looking at hotel prices. We're looking at different destination cities. We're looking at flight prices from the UK, from Canada, from America and such as well. And the guys are doing, Brian and the team are doing a great job of getting all that put together. So that's going to be great. We were supposed to be meeting with Greg Marshall, the supporters liaison officer, this week, but it was supposed to be, what was that? Supposed to be Wednesday morning. And just before I started recording, right now it's 9:53 a.m. And Greg had asked Alan if we could move it to tomorrow, but tomorrow doesn't work for everyone. So we're going to try and find a different day and time for that meeting. It's going to be a bit of a catch up, and we're going to try and do these quarterly, where we get an opportunity to chat with Greg, work through what a wider agenda would be. Things get a wee bit blown up at the club every time there's a new manager, and unfortunately we're kind of used to that over the last wee while, so we'll just have to put up with that and try and figure out another time when we can meet Greg and see where it goes from there. And just another reminder that we do have some tickets from the Rangers Charity Foundation for the Rangers Charity Ball coming up a wee bit later. Actually, I guess that's early next month, isn't it? It's the weekend of the Old Firm Cup semi-final as well. So we'll see what that looks like. But if we do have 2 tickets that have been very, very generously donated from the Charity Foundation. So if you are a NARSA member, a member of a NARSA club, and you are planning to go back home and you would like access to these tickets, please do get in touch. I had absolutely 0 responses to this last week, which was a wee bit of a surprise. I thought some people would be going back, especially with it being the cup semi-final weekend there. But we'll do a random draw if we get more than one person interested. If we only get one person interested and you can prove that you are a genuine member of a NARSA club, then the tickets are yours. I mean, that's like a 100% chance of actually being successful. That's a pretty good odd, if you ask me. So please do get in touch, rangersSCC@hotmail.com, and we'll get your name into the hat there. In terms of communications for last week, there's no Gers guide today, not a huge surprise. They've been a wee bit up and down. It got a wee bit consistent there, but with it being international break, there's not too much going on anyway. I imagine there'll be a loan review tomorrow. There will be a press conference that the women's team are playing on Sunday. Actually, the women's team are playing away to Hibs on Sunday, and there was some quite interesting developments in the women's team for this past weekend. They beat St Johnstone women's team 12-0 on the weekend there, which is fabulous in terms of goal difference. And with the games now all being evil, I was going to say evil. Even in level becomes evil. There you go. With the games now being even, I guess Glasgow City and Hibs must have played out to a draw. So Rangers are now only 3 points off the top of the table, having played the same amount of games. They are joint second with that mob, and Hibs are just a wee bit behind. And just remember, Hibs are the defending champions here. So the women's team are away to Hibs on Sunday with a 1:10 p.m. UK kickoff. That could be monumental, that game, in terms of where the destination is going to be for the league championship. So great to see the women's team getting a score that's kind of synonymous with the women's team against some of the other teams in the division. There wasn't a lot of real big scores thus far under Leanne Crichton's tenure as manager. So great to see some goals there, obviously the 3 points and the goal difference and such. I did ask last week, and I'm going to do this again, if you can, even if you don't listen to the podcast on our YouTube channel, would you be able to go over to the official NARSA YouTube channel and just please subscribe? There's just one video that comes out a week. It's not even a video, it's just a still of the happenings of the last week, just with the date on it. But it's the exact same podcast as you're listening to for right now, and we're looking to try and get as many subscribers there as we possibly can. I mentioned last week we're going to be getting some guest spots here from from Gers TV and some other forums out there to try and, just basically co-promote the platforms and stuff. And really what we're trying to do is extend our reach, get our subscriber numbers up, and make that a very attractive proposition for potential sponsors for NARSA to be able to try and really ramp up on our sponsorship stuff. Stephen's doing a great job on that side of things. So please do go and subscribe. And what I'm actually going to do today is I'm very active on LinkedIn for my business, and I'm going to start posting the link to the podcast on my LinkedIn profile, because it's something that I do, something I spend a lot of time doing, something I'm very passionate about, and it's something that's kind of loosely connected to what I'm doing in terms of community, in terms of service, and in terms of trying to help people, see a different point of view in terms of Rangers happenings, and also just inform everyone what's happening from a NARSA perspective as well. So here we go. The very last thing I want to tell you is the evening, the reminder of the evening with Barry Ferguson, Alan McGregor, Neil McCann and Billy Dodds. Do you think they're coming back? I don't think so, but maybe they are. Who knows? I kind of joked about that a couple of times over the last few weeks or so, but that's on Saturday, the 3rd of January, the Doubletree by Hilton at Glasgow Central. Tickets are £80 or £120 as well, and that will be very, very interesting and very, very entertaining to hear the stories from all the guys. All the guys are characters, of course, and with their specific experience and almost real-time experience that they have of the club. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what that looks like. Okay, my friends, that will do it for this week. As always, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to listen. And please do share it. Please do go like and subscribe on the podcast platform or YouTube, as I say, and pass it on to someone they think might enjoy it. It's a big week this week, and not in actual literal football terms, in terms of there being a match, but in terms of us getting the next appointment right. Don't let my tattoo go to waste, Rangers. Get Steven Gerrard in there as quickly as possible, and my tattoo will be the photo that's on the podcast thumbnail on YouTube over the next wee while. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully they get it right this time. Until next week, please do take care of yourself and all the very best, okay? Follow.